projects. So with those 5 milestones will we approach each of those 4 projects. So for partners, we will ask you with whom you would like to work. And I will say, just from personal experience, it is best if you can find a buddy with whom to take the course, or just someone you know who you think you would work well with. They don't have to be stronger than you or weaker than you with regard to programming. It's fine, in fact, if there's a disparity there. But really important, I think, is sort of diligence. And is this person going to pull his or her own weight? We will try as the course's staff to mitigate the issues that invariably arise between someone not pulling their weight. And we will keep that in mind so that if one person finds him or herself at a disadvantage, we'll figure out mid-semester how to deal with that, so long as you approach us. Because this happens. And I can think of a class in CS that this happened to me years ago. And it's incredibly frustrating. But you can do the best you can now to try to ward that off by choosing that person carefully. But if you don't really know anyone in the class, that's fine. There'll be an opportunity next week for us to help pair you with someone. So a word on academic honesty. So in CS50, we sent 21 cases to the ad board this past year, which is consistent statistically with past years. So this is to say that there is a line that I'd like to think is fairly well defined in the multiple paragraphs of text that appear in the course's syllabus and on every problem set, as well as in this course. But realize in all of these cases, was this line crossed by one or more of the parties? So this is not excessive collaboration or too much talking at a whiteboard. This was emailed code around, or this was copy-paste. And so that is the line. And you'll see in more precise detail in the syllabus where the line here is. In this course, though, we will embrace the reality that you can learn best not just from us, and maybe not even from us, but from each other, and by having multiple eyes and minds look at your code. And so even though you'll be submitting your code as part of the beta milestone, after which you will be seeing classmates' code and they will be seeing yours, realize that within the syllabus is the specification as to what is then appropriate, and really it will boil down to citation and attribution of those ideas. The goal is to learn from each other. So if you ultimately are reviewing someone's code and you're like, oh my God, this is so much smarter than what I did, the intent is that you will then adopt, not with copy-paste, but the ideas that you're seeing there, and actually then improve your code as a result. And because of the pairing process, we'll know exactly who's been working with whom, so that we can get a sense of exactly how those ideas are propagating. Now, besides lectures, there'll be labs. So labs will happen multiple times during the week. We will finalize these once the TFs know their own schedules and you yours. Labs will be an opportunity for 2 things. One, hands-on activities, whereby multiple teaching fellows will make a short presentation and then roam throughout the room, where we'll have everyone on laptops on open desk areas, in some rooms on campus, and there'll be opportunities to learn how to do something hands-on, like here's how to make a flip-side view controller in iOS, or here is how to use Git in a useful way, or here's how to use this particular IDE. And then in the latter hour of these 2-hour labs will be opportunities for design consultations and for advice with regard to the projects, whether it's both you and your partner there or just one of you. But the message that we do want to send in this course is that, as we did with the final project in 50, the training wheels are deliberately off. Office hours and help, in this case, cs164.net, and email and in person. Our role is no longer so much to help you find bugs, right? There will come a time very soon, and in fact it's now, where there will not be someone else in life who can help you chase down all of your bugs. Like, you are now graduated into the class of folks who know how to find their own bugs, or at least know what tools to use to try to chase down those bugs. So just realize that whereas in 50, especially throughout most of the problem sets, the staff were really there to help you line by line. All right, let's think this through. Let's find the bug. The goal now is that you now have a partner, right? You already have a second pair of eyes that can help you. You'll have, through the code review process, yet more sets of eyes that can help you. And even though we'll certainly answer questions as they arise, do approach this course. And as much as it is meant to be a software engineering course, that it is not meant to be quite the same experience of 50, but really an opportunity to take your own skills and design capabilities to the next level. So a few final words, so that if some of you can go off and shop other classes if you'd like. A word on the nature of the hardware choices. So we could do this kind of course, frankly, with Android, with Windows Mobile, with iOS. The upside of using iOS, I genuinely think, is that it allows us to have a fairly smooth conversation from 50 into this class, if only because Objective-C, as you'll find, even though syntactically different, is a superset of C. So we don't have to have some of the same conversations as we once did, but realize all of the ideas we'll explore will be related to this and other platforms. So roughly halfway through the semester, when we transition to iOS-based native applications, applications, code that gets compiled and run on these devices, you will need to own or have access to a Mac. We have had Hewitt, Harvard University IT, set up a lab with Lion-based Macs, because the one gotcha is your Mac has to run Lion, and you then have to download for free Xcode 4.2. So more on this in a bit, and in the syllabus and on the FAQs page of the course's website, there are some more details. And unfortunately, this is sort of the price we pay for using this particular platform. But we'll do our best to equip you if you don't have. As for the hardware, you don't need to have. But if you want to get your parents to get you something, now might be the academically most compelling opportunity to do so. But but as you saw, a simulator exists so that you won't be at a disadvantage if you don't happen to own the latest and greatest hardware. Now, as for books, so no books are required for this class. And indeed, for a lot of CS courses in general, like the web is a pretty good resource, and books tend to be more out of date. But for those of you who do like the support structure of books, and there are some good references here, a quick whirlwind tour of the references that you might find helpful. So on the recommended list is this one, The Mythical Man Month, which is actually a classic text in computer science that is definitely worth a read at some point, whether this semester or in the future, and essentially speaks to the process by which the amount of time and effort in developing large software grows with the number of people involved. One of the takeaways being having lots and lots and lots of programmers actually does not solve work proportionally in the same ratio, but rather can end up slowing the process to some extent. Another classic text by the so-called Gang of Four is this book here, Design Patterns, which will explore many of the ideas from. It was published several years ago, so there are newer texts that discuss these same ideas in the context of more modern languages than, say, just Java. But this, too, is a classic text if you are an aspiring computer scientist and definitely want to have the right books on your bookshelf. Now, more in terms of practicality, this is the best book I've seen among the PHP world for actually learning some of the I don't know what the cover means, to be honest. Realize this one's actually out of print, but it is available used. In fact, none of these books are at the Coop right now because you can do much better on the internet, to be honest. And a lot of Google previews are available, and some of the books might very well be available through Hollis. But realize that all of these are, the ISBNs are linked in the course's syllabus. This is one of the better books we've seen for JavaScript and the usage of design patterns. So not just writing JavaScript code, but designing JavaScript-based software. This one here for Objective-C, if you use the similar book for C by the same author for CS50. If you like that book, albeit fairly dense read, this is a nice companion for the language called Objective-C. And this one, this is probably my favorite because it has pictures and it's colorful. But iOS, at least for me, it was a lot to wrap my mind around, at least syntactically with Objective-C, and of the enormous number of ridiculously large books on iOS that exist out there, this actually was one of the best. So of all of the books for which there are learning curves, Objective-C you might find has the highest, given that we have no experience there, but more experience with PHP and JavaScript. This actually isn't a bad book to leaf through or borrow or buy at some point. This one, meanwhile, is about user interfaces, and it's actually nice and small, and it really does just plant the ideas of good design with regard to user experience. So you might want to check out this one as well. And we'll do our best throughout the semester to recommend specific pages or chapters so that at least you can guide yourself through any of these optional readings. So at the end of the semester, there's this thing called a CS Design Fair, which is strangely familiar. But this is not a replacement for the CS50 Fair, which remains in the fall. In fact, the CS Design Fair is meant to bring together students from this class, from CS171, Visualization, CS179, User Interfaces, and other classes in Applied Mathematics and Engineering Sciences, so that on May 1st, later this spring, after you've completed both Students' Choice and both Staff's Choice projects, we'll have an opportunity to all gather together and show off what you did in this class and see what classmates did elsewhere. So per the course catalog, we do realize that there might be too few seats, at least for now. That problem will soon go away, I'm sure. OK, that was funny to me in my head. But what we will do is this. The only homework for the coming week is to fill out the form here. It is our goal not to lottery the course, but so that we can pull that trigger if need be. Do sometime this week, really ASAP, fill out this form. But let me strongly encourage you, as you'll see at the top of that form, to try to figure out who your partner would be before filling out the form, because that will just allow for a smoother on-ramping if you decide to proceed with the course. So that's it for today. I and the TFs will stick around for a bit for questions. Otherwise, we will see you on Monday.